Howdy Beans, and welcome back to the Howdy Beans podcast. I'm your host, Luke, the intrepid adventurer. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're all good, as per usual. Today, we're going to be looking at the 2008 Xbox 360 classic Tomb Raider Underworld. This continues my Tomb Raider game series deep dive, whatever it is. I haven't decided what to call it yet. But before we get into all of that, I got to do with housekeeping because I like to keep my house nice and clean. So make sure you follow me on X at howdybeans_pod. If you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. And finally, if you listen to this on Spotify on your mobile phone, don't forget to leave a 5-star rating. So, as I mentioned, today we're going to be looking into Tomb Raider Underworld from 2008 on the Xbox 360. Now, for anybody that doesn't know, this is a series where I decided to look into the Tomb Raider games. It started with Tomb Raider Legend, which I really enjoyed. Then there was Tomb Raider Anniversary, which I didn't really enjoy, but was a remaster of the first Tomb Raider game. And then it ends here with Tomb Raider Underworld. And then once this is done, once I've done with this game, I would then move on to the reboot Tomb Raider game that came out in 2012 or 13, I think it was, and all the games that came after that. But this is the final Tomb Raider game in this Tomb Raider sort of series before the reboot. So I hope you all stick around and enjoy this episode. If you are looking for more Tomb Raider goodness, then you're in luck because I have covered all the Tomb Raider movies. I did the first Tomb Raider movie with Angelina Jolie and its sequel, which for some unknown reason is still really successful over on YouTube. I can't understand why, but it is. But I've covered the two Angelina Jolie movies. Then I covered the Tomb Raider movie that came out a couple of years ago in 2018 with Alicia Vikander. I also have covered the Tomb Raider animated TV show on Netflix, which was really good, that I really enjoyed. So there's a lot of Tomb Raider things, again, as well as all the other games. So you have a lot of Tomb Raider goodness to tuck into if this is your first time coming into the podcast and coming into sort of this series. So by all means, go back and check them all out. As for today, we're going to get straight into it because I've got a lot to talk about my first impressions. And we've got a lot to talk about the development. So without further ado, let's get into the story's plot. So it's only a short one. The plot goes as follows. The 9th overall entry in the Tomb Raider series and 3rd and final in the Legend trilogy, Underworld follows archaeologist adventurer Lara Croft as she searches for Mjolnir, an artifact key to entering the realm of Helheim while confronting adversaries from her past. So this kind of continues the Legend story. Now, granted, I didn't finish the last game, which was Tomb Raider Anniversary, which did tie into this, but I did complete Tomb Raider Legend. And as I said, I really did enjoy that game. If I remember correctly, the events that happened in Legends set up for what's going on in this final game. The long and short of it, for anybody that doesn't know, without going into spoilers, at the beginning of that game, Lara Croft and her mum kind of crash in the pool and her mum disappears. And again, I'm not getting into spoilers. You do find out how, but again, you find out in that game. Her mother disappears, and she's in Legend. She's trying to figure out what happened to her mother. Anniversary, even though it's a remaster of the first game, it's tweaked a bit in terms of the story so that it can fit into the Legend trilogy. And that game is about figuring out what happened to your father. And that both games lead into this one where you try to figure out not only what your father, continue your father's journey of trying to figure out what happened, but also still trying to find your mother because she is in Helheim. So you've got to go rescue her. And that is sort of the continuation. And the reason I know that is because even though I didn't finish Anniversary, I ended up going online and watching a deep dive into the story of that, just trying to figure out what I missed. And again, I still kind of regret not finishing that game. As of recording this, I haven't actually gone back yet and actually decided to finish that game. I will do it. I've just been so busy with other things, and I've got loads of books to read and movies to watch and all this jazz that I haven't really got around to it. But I did want to find out what was going on in the story, how it all linked in. So that is how I know that. But yes, so moving on. So as for the development of this game, so There's quite a bit, so you're going to have to bear with me. It goes as follows. Planning for Underworld began during the final production stages of Legend in 2006, with the team feeling they had a strong enough fan response and set of gameplay concepts to begin planning ahead. There were also features that could not be included in Legend, which were envisioned as being possible in a sequel. Eric Lindstorm, who had previously worked as a scenario writer on Legend, acted as creative director. Alex Jones, later acting as co-producer for DMC Devil May Cry in 2013, acted as the project's senior producer. The other staff included Henry White Wido, as lead designer, lead programmer Rob Pavey and Patrick Sirk acted as art director. Production lasted roughly 2.5 years. Development was troubled by multiple factors. Production of Underworld ran parallel to Anniversary, with Anniversaries developed by a separate team based on the Legend game engine. Due to this, Underworld suffered due to staff shortages. For Underworld, a new engine was created that was later dubbed the CDC engine. They had trouble adapting to the new technology, as the engine had to be built from scratch rather than carrying over the later code from Legend. Other troubles included the original lead level designer dying in the middle of production, and another core staff member needing to leave to have her baby. The ship escape Lara experience in the opening level, intended to feel like an action movie, was almost cut from the game several times due to its technical challenges. Lindstorm later called the game's successful development a miracle due to the difficulties of transitioning onto next-generation hardware and the staff limitations. While proud of their achievement, he regretted not being able to have a more polished production by release, attributing this failing mainly to over-ambition from himself and other team members. The gameplay was built around the question, what could Lara do? While carrying over the established platforming and action, the team wanted to remove as many arbitrary barriers as possible, allowing Lara to traverse the environment in a more natural manner. They also wanted to steer away from the corridor-style levels of their earlier games and have an open area with some freedom of choice for players, and better incorporate Lara's toolset, such as the grappling line into puzzles. Some gameplay elements planned for Underworld were first shown off in Anniversary, with Lindstorm working with that game's director, Jason Botta, to test them out on the fan base before Underworld released. The separated elements of its difficulty settings were implemented to give players more control over their gameplay experience. For the enemy artificial intelligence, Crystal Dynamics licensed the nav power middleware from Babel Flux, allowing for more variety in its AI behavior. Adrenaline moments were designed as an alternative to the previously used QuickTime events, which were falling out of fashion in the gaming world. Well, they were, because they were good, but they also got a bit silly and they were used too much, to be honest, in games. Some of them were really good, and then you had some really silly ones in Spider-Man 3, if you ever played that. That had some really funny but also really silly QuickTime events. Anyway, adrenaline moments allowed the team to create similar cinematic moments without removing player interaction. Designing the feature, which had slow motion elements, presented a challenge, as the team did not want it compared to the bullet time used in other media. After hand animation was used for Legend and Anniversary, for Underworld, Lara's animations were created using motion capture, chosen by the team to allow for a more fluid and natural style of movement compared to her earlier games. Her motion capture animations were then blended together using hand animation to create smooth transitions between different gameplay stances. Keely Hawes returns from Legend and Anniversary to voice Lara. Her motion capture was performed by Olympic gymnastic Heidi Moneymaker and stunt woman Helena Barrett. To portray her at trade shows, Idris hired model Alison Carroll. Carroll was the last live model for Lara. So that's what they've got for the development. As for a little bit in the game scenario and world design, it goes as follows. Underworld forms part of a trilogy together with Legend and Anniversary. The scenario was co-written by Lindstorm and Lara's credited co-creator Toby Gard. The script was written by Lindstorm. Gard was credited on the game as cinematic director. Additional writing work was done by the Freeman Group, led by screenwriter David Freeman. Underworld was Gard's last project at Crystal Dynamics before leaving in 2009, and is his last Tomb Raider game to date. In an interview that year, he felt his influence on Lara had been growing less and less since Legend due to the increase in size of the team and the input of the director and the publisher, feeling it was the right time to leave Lara behind for other game projects. The story delivery was intended to balance the dialogue-heavy approach of Legend and the more sort of solitary atmosphere of Anniversary. In addition to the atmosphere being darker and having environmental weather and effects tying into the story, this was partly in response to negative feedback from players of Legend about Alistair and Zip talking too much during the gameplay. The game's title, Underworld, had multiple meanings. She was visiting multiple Underworld locations across different cultures as part of her adventure, reaching a darker part of her internal journey, and the tone of the adventure and locations were more somber than earlier games. The storyline of Underworld was made epic and dramatic, with the team wanting to raise the stakes, while a single location with multiple ruins to explore was considered. The team wanted a world-spanning adventure that would take in multiple ruins themed around underworld legends around the world, informing the game and story design from that point on. Norse mythology was chosen as the underlying thread for the story, with additional mythologies building on that. Lindstorm made the initial decision of which mythology the game would use during pre-production talks with Gard, with the two then making the story as brief and entertaining as possible. The story also referred to similar myths appearing worldwide, something that had fascinated Gard for years. A central theme of the narrative was Lara's determination to uncover the truth behind Mjolnir, despite the risks of unleashing something of world-destroying power, calling into question the reasons behind and justification for her adventuring. While there was a trend for the series to darken their tones to sometimes mixed reactions, Guards explained the tone shift as a natural progression of the Legend trilogy. The storyline originally featured a collection of Lara's father and his niece, who would be possessed by an artifact dubbed the Eye of Odin. The characters and artifacts were cut from the game as it made the narrative too complicated, with the team wanting to focus on Natla's plan and associated roles of Amanda and the doppelganger. I won't go into any more because just looking at it briefly, it goes into a bit of spoilers. So I want to stay clear of that. But that is basically it for the game's development. As for my experience of the game so far, so normally when I do sort of game reviews, I tend to play the first level, maybe even bridging on to a little bit of the second level before sort of I do this review. The issue being is the fact of I've been playing this game on and off. As I mentioned, I've been very, very busy with the podcast and sort of out of podcast, sort of real world sort of stuff in my personal life as well as work and stuff like that. So it's been really difficult to actually find time to sit down and play this game. So whenever I have sat down and played it, to kind of refresh my memory, I'd play longer than I would normally, which means that I've actually already completed 3 levels of this game. And at the end of the last level, I basically realized I've got to stop myself playing because I feel like I'm very close to the end. And I think I've got another 2 more levels before I get to that point. But I feel like I'm very close to it. So I was like, I've got to pull back. I've got to, take in for what I've gotten so far, do the introduction, and then I can go back and sort of finish the game. So my first initial thoughts is it is definitely an upgrade. It looks better, it feels better, it plays better. It also makes sense reading the game's development that they did on motion capture because Lara actually moves a lot more smoother. Now, granted, yes, we all know the joke. In the original Lara Croft game, she had very sort of rigid sort of tank controls. That wasn't really an issue that I found with Legend or Anniversary, she moved quite smoothly. And I do remember saying in Anniversary, she actually moved incredibly smoothly and very natural, to be honest. But with this one, because they use motion capture, it feels a lot more real. And it looks a lot better as well. Like I said, the brand new engine, it looks better. There are times where, even I'm playing on sort of a next gen console, the Xbox Series X, it looks better. It looks smoother. There is less juttering. Like, the animations just feel great. So when Lara's doing her gymnastics, when she's doing her backflips and her moves and the way she's climbing, it looks real. It looks as if somebody actually is climbing up a wall. It feels really, really good. The gameplay is a lot of fun as well. The only thing that I would really say about this game, and again, it goes into what I was saying in the development, was that they kept going on about the game needs a darker tone. It needs to be dark. It needs to be dark. They took dark too seriously. This game is dark, and I don't mean it is in its themes or dialogue. This game is just dark. There is no lighting at all, and it's a bit of a nightmare because what that means is I'm currently playing this during somewhat the summer. So it is currently April as of recording this. I've been playing it on and off through the end of March, for most of April. And because it's really, really sunny here in the UK, it's really hard to play this game during the day, because as soon as you get a little bit of light reflecting on the TV, no matter if you've got the brightness turned up to 100, you can't see anything. So I ended up having, and again, this is another thing that's taken me so long to get to kind of this point, is the fact of I'd have to wait till it starts getting dark, which means here in the UK during the summer, it doesn't start getting dark until about 8, half 8 in the sort of at night. So I have to wait till then. And then I've got about 2, maybe 3 hours of gameplay before, okay, I'm really tired, I want to go to bed. So it's a bit difficult. So I'm having to find these times when it's not a very sunny day, I can play the game, or it is a sunny day, but I can play it a bit later, and then bump up the brightness so I can actually see what I'm doing. And there are times where I don't want to do that, because again, the game was designed to be dark. I get it. She goes to Underworld. She goes underground into tombs and things like that. And the set pieces are amazing. Like, at the beginning of the game, one of the first places you go to is like an Atlantis sort of underworld, sunken city underneath the ocean, which is absolutely brilliant, and it's really cool. You've got to swim down and you've got to fight sharks to get in, and stuff like that. Like, it's really, really cool. But when you can't see nothing, you're blinded. You're swimming around, but I can't see nothing, and so you have to bump up the brightness and stuff like that. So I get it in terms of the idea. They want it to be dark because you're going in the underworlds and gritty. And like I said, I do feel bad because that's how they envisioned it. So I want to play the game as the developers envisioned the game, being very dark and stuff like that. But at the same stage, it's like, well, I also really want to see what I'm doing, so I feel like because I'm playing the game on a really, really bright setting, I'm missing all the little sort of details and stuff like that. Like, I'm seeing the details, but I can't appreciate them in their natural light, or shall I say, the natural light as the developers wanted it to look like. So that's my only drawback at the moment, is the fact of it's very dark. It's hard to see anything, so I'm having to be picky of when I can and can't play this game. But like, the set pieces are fun, the puzzles are good, the animations are really good. So far, it is a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it. There was one moment when I was in Thailand, which is, I think, hold on, I'm trying to remember how many. I think that was the 3rd or 4th, because there's quite a few missions. I think that's like the 3rd or 4th mission in. You get to Thailand, and it's beautiful, it's lush, it's gorgeous. Again, the engine is amazing. I'm playing it on next-gen sort of hardware. It looks beautiful as well. But some of the puzzles, sometimes you go into areas and the puzzles, you're like, okay, I know what I've got to do here. And there are other puzzles where you look around, you feel a bit like a dum-dum. You look around good. I don't know where you want me to go. Like, sometimes you can, like, and this is the thing, sometimes you can climb on ledges and the game was like, oh yeah, you can climb on this ledge. And other times you won't. And it's like, hold on a second, I've just 5 minutes ago in another area in this same place, a while ago, you let me jump here. And that was an issue. But now, sort of 2-3 minutes later, you won't let me do it. Why? Oh, it's because I've got to climb up this pole and then jump off this pole. So there's little things like that. Sometimes it's not always clear as to what you've got to do. So a lot of it is just trial and error, just be like trying things. Okay, that didn't work. And again, I don't mind that so much, but it does get a bit boring and repetitive where you're like, okay, I'm in the same area. I've been here for like 30 minutes to an hour now. I'm getting a bit bored. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So again, I know it's an old game, but if it were just a bit more easy signposts, like what the game does, I didn't realize this till halfway in the game. When you're in an area where you're meant to go, you'll get an audible cue where you go doo doo doo. It'll make like a little jingle noise, right? And that's basically an audio cue to let you know you're in the right area or you're doing the right thing, which is brilliant. But like I said, I only realized that halfway into the game. I just thought it was. I generally thought that was the noise it made when there was like jewels or like a relic or something like that. So a collectible was nearby. So I'd hear that noise. I'd run around like a blind headless chicken trying to figure out, where's this relic? Can't find it, and then come back to where I was. Because when you find like relics and collectibles, it makes a jingle, and the jingle is very, very similar, not exactly, but very closely similar to the jingle of what you're in the right area, you're doing the right thing. So it's little things like that. It's little nitpicks that sort of are bothering me. But apart from that, I am having a lot of fun. I am enjoying it. It's still one of these sort of games where I'm like, it feels like Lara Croft. I'm actually enjoying it a lot more than Anniversary. And I've actually gotten a lot further in this game than I did in Anniversary. More than likely, I'll actually complete this one, So yeah, so that's a positive, really, if you're looking for a positive. But yeah, overall, my first impressions and sort of my experience of the game so far is quite positive. Now, again, as I always say, that could change. It could get to the point where I get really sort of peed off and to go, that's it, I'm not doing it. And then I come in and it'd be like Anniversary. Guys, I got to tell you the truth, I didn't complete it. Or again, it could be on sort of the other side where I get to a point and I complete it and it had a really bad ending or whatever that. So, so far, so good. That is always up for debate because I haven't finished it yet. It might change. Again, I'm having hindsight being what it is of not having played more than I normally would do. I've got a bit more of an opinion to say for my experience so far than I would normally. But overall, it's pretty positive, and I am quite positive in a way that I think that I will enjoy this game, and I'll sort of give it a fair sort of positive review. But again, I never like to jump the gun when it comes to that because things change, So yeah, I'm going to go off and finish Tomb Raider Underworld now. And then when we come back, I'll give you my full sort of first impressions, my thoughts on the story, the gameplay, and sort of all of that jazz. So I will see you all in a minute. And welcome back, everybody. So I have now finally finished Tomb Raider Underworld. Unlike Anniversary, I fully completed this game, even though there was many times, specifically from the middle to the end, where the game got incredibly frustrating and tedious, and I started to see it started to unravel. I started to see the true colours of this game, with like the save system is not great. It's a bit broken. Lara doesn't always go where you want her to go. She doesn't always jump where you want her to go. She doesn't always do what you want her to do, and things like that. But as it is when I do majority of my reviews, I like to do the positive first and then the negative after. So going straight into sort of my first impressions, I did enjoy myself here. Lara Croft, Tomb Raider Underworld, it's not a bad game. It's pretty decent, to be honest. When it works and when it is functional and when the save system and all that, it actually does what it's meant to do, it's a lot of fun. And you actually will get a lot of enjoyment out of it. I know I did at times. Again, like I said, there are times where I thought it was quite frustrating. But again, we will get there when we start talking about the gameplay and specific things. But I did really, really enjoy it. As I mentioned in the sort of introduction, when I was talking about my experiences so far, it is a very beautiful game. It looks very like the new engine that they were using is a leap, step, and a jump from the engine that we're using for Legend and Anniversary. It looks a lot better. It runs a lot smoother. Lara, she actually looks more human, which I know sounds a bit silly, but because they used motion capture and they used an actual gymnast, an Olympic winner gymnast, to do a lot of the motion capture, when she does all of her acrobatics, when she does her climbing, when she's shimmering and stuff like that, it actually looks real. Like, I know it is a game, but there are moments when you're playing it, you're like, oh, that actually looks really real, to be honest. So I've got to commend them for that. But like I mentioned, there are started points, and again, it only started to hit. There was little hitches here and there, sometimes where Lara wouldn't jump where I wanted her to jump, or she wouldn't go where I wanted her to go. But it was far and few between, and it didn't happen a lot in the first 2-3 levels, so it wasn't really a concern. But when you get to the middle level, when you get to the Mexico level, oh my god, I've got so much to say about that level, so I'm saving it for later. Just know it's a nightmare, and I almost gave up. I literally almost sat there and went, I ain't playing this game anymore, and I would have if I didn't get very, very lucky. But I will get to that point in a minute. But honestly, my first impressions is, I would say it's worth it. Definitely worth giving a go. You can most likely find this game cheap nowadays, and as well, it's backwards compatible on the Xbox Series X. So if you find the copy of it out there in the wild, it will work if you put it into your console. And also, if you want to buy it digitally, the game's always on sale. So every Tuesday, Xbox does a sale of games, and it's usually always on sale, either every Tuesday, every other Tuesday. So it's one you'll always be able to get your hands on for cheap and play and experience. Moving on to sort of my thoughts and feelings on the story and the gameplay. The story, again, like I said, it follows on from Legend and Anniversary. In this one, you are continuing trying to find your mother, trying to find out where she's gone. And it links in with Norse mythology, and that you find out that your mother is in Helheim, and that you have to now go find Thor's gauntlets, and you got to find Thor's magic belt and Thor's hammer Mjolnir to be able to rescue your mother. But you also have got Natla, and you've got all the Amanda and all the other villains from Legend are there trying to stop you as well. And again, I'm not going to go into story completely because I don't want to spoil it for anybody who might be interested. But it is a pretty good continuation of the story from Legend and from the little bit of Anniversary that I experienced. One thing that I do miss from Legend that I knew was a kind of a negative feedback from majority of fans that played Legend was the constant input from Zip and from not Alfred. I was going to say Alfred then, but that's Batman. Basically from Lara's butler. You know, you'd have Zip and Lara's butler. They'd give you hints here and there, or like they'd be the guy in the chair. Basically, they'd be like, "Oh, Lara, I did some research and X, Y, and Z, and this happened, and this will be interesting." And I like that because Lara would then talk back, and it kind of made it feel a bit more real. Whereas they kind of took that away here, where it is basically Lara wouldn't say anything for long spans, and then you'd get a short cut scene where she'd pull her camera out, very sort of early 2000s sort of camcorder, and she'd just be recording. She'd be like, "Oh, these Norse ruins, blah, 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 explanation, and then that's it." And it's like I'd have to play another hour or two before I get another cutscene where she does more of that. And I just wanted a bit more of Lara talking and a bit more of, you know, sort of back and forth with maybe the villains, or back and forth with Zip and other people. I think that would have made it a bit more interesting, because there were times where, like I said, it did get frustrating, and all I've got is Lara just going, huh, ha, 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 grunts, like Johnny Bravo. That it was one of those, like, I wanted to fill in that dead air, even though the music was beautiful and the visuals are stunning as well. I wanted something just to fill in that dead air while I'm going parkouring through these sort of tombs. But that's my opinion. Some people obviously didn't like it from Legend, and that's why they took it out. But I enjoy it. As for the gameplay, when it works, it's brilliant. Like I said, it's very smooth. Again, because I'm playing it on a next gen system, there's no stuttering. The frame rates, the animations are very smooth. It's very playable. That's the word I'm looking for. It's very playful. It's very realistic. It looks fantastic. Like I said, the motion capture and the animations go hand in hand. And Lara, she's like a monkey spider, or like a spider even. She grapples and climbs on like rocks so well, and like the way she's rock climbing, the way her legs are and stuff like that. It looks real. It doesn't look like fake or like a video game. It looks pretty real. The shooting mechanics are great as well. You do get this adrenaline mode, which, to be honest, the game did tell me about, but I forgot about it, and I didn't realize it halfway through the game that I could. Because what I was doing when enemies would run at me, as I did with Legend and as I did with Anniversary, when enemies would run at me, I would just press the B button and dodge out the way, and then I'd shoot them midair, and it was pretty cool. Come to find out, I could just press the RS button, the right thumbstick button, and the game would just go into like a Max Payne slow-mo mode, which is pretty awesome, and I could just pick off the enemies. But the problem is the weapons aren't powerful enough to really do enough damage where you can kind of quickly kill one enemy and then quickly kill another like Max Payne. It literally slows the enemy down, so as they're running at you, you can get a few shots, dodge out the way, get a few more shots, and maybe even throw a grenade and stuff like that. So it's like it's functional, but at the same stage, like I didn't really find any need to use it. I would much rather have just done shoot them, dodge, and kind of really get into the feel of it. Like that's what Lara would do, really. She'd be doing like the acrobatics, doing the back flips, front flips, jumping over them, jumping to the left or to the right, strafing, that sort of thing. Because again, that's what Lara would do. So that's how I ended up playing it. The climbing, when Lara listens and she actually does what you say, because like you can do like there were many times when again, I didn't learn this till halfway through the game because the game doesn't properly televise to you. And again, I'll go into more detail into this little bit in a minute, right in a minute when I talk about Mexico level. But the game doesn't blatantly tell you what you have to do sometimes, especially when it comes to how certain mechanics work. So there were many moments where you've got these like bars that hang out and you can kind of, swing around them and then you can kind of propel yourself onto another ledge. Well, on those bars, if you just stand still and if you hold down the A button, Lara then will climb up the bar and then she will balance on it. And then you can use that balance to get a bit more height so you can get higher ledges and you can jump to other bars further away and things like that. So you can actually get further than you could if you was just to swing on it, right? Which is great, but the game doesn't televise you that sometimes. And like there are other times as well where Lara sort of like she's shimmying up a wall. You climb up a ledge and like you're shimmying on it, and then you can jump onto another wall and then quickly like bunny hop from that wall to the next wall, bunny hop again, and you do it about 3-4 times, and then you get to a higher up ledge. Again, when it works, brilliant. But if you're not quick on that on the A button to jump, Lara doesn't. And then sometimes, even if you are quick, it doesn't matter because Lara will jump on it. She'll go, huh! And then she'll just like sit there, and then she'll just slide down it like a frog on a window, just like that, And it's a nightmare because sometimes there's like a bit of wood underneath where it'll catch you, so like you don't have to climb all the way up. And then sometimes there is no wood there, so you just slide and fall down, and then you've got to do all that again. And this is where I get to the Mexico level. This is where the game really started to show its colors. I've got a lot to say about this level, and as I said, if I wasn't doing this game for a review, and if I really didn't feel bad for myself of not fully playing through and completing Anniversary, there is a potentiality that I'd be saying right now that I really did try with Lara Croft Underworld, but I couldn't do it. But I pushed myself through it. I was very determined, and I'm glad I did, to be honest. But the same stage, I got very, very close for not doing it. This is the story, right? So you've done so your first few levels. You go underneath the Mediterranean Sea. You defeat an octopus. It's giant octopus, is like a Kraken. It's awesome. Then you go to a ship sinks. You go to Thailand, which is really fun and beautiful, and somewhat annoying jumping puzzles, but overall like it's a lot of fun, right? And then you get to Mexico, and when you get to Mexico, you get given a bike, which again is wonderful, right? But the problem is you're on this bike and it goes quite rapid. It goes quite quickly. So you don't think to look around, again, this, as I said in the introduction, the same noise for when you're going the right way is the same noise for finding artifacts. So there are many times, as I said in the introduction, where I would stop thinking, oh, there's not an artifact around here. Oh, wait, there's no artifacts around here. It must have been the noise saying I'm going in the right direction. Problem is that noise would go off even if you was going in the right direction or if you missed something. It wouldn't really matter. It wouldn't like it. There were many times where I'd go to a certain point, especially near to the end of the game, and I'd climb up something, and the game would make that noise. Oh, I'm going the right way, and then I climb up and I'm stuck. There's nowhere for me to go, and I'd have to go into a walkthrough and realize actually I should have been on the other side of this giant ledge, and that the game just decided to go to me for no reason, and little frustrating things like that. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So you're on this bike, you're going rapid around, and me being a bit of a collection whore, I don't like to leave areas without properly looking around. So when you're driving down, you got this first big sort of tomb, and on the outside, it looks like every other tomb that you've seen. It doesn't look like anything that you can properly climb, or you really need to check out. So anybody else, and again, turns out a lot of people had this issue because I had to go deep onto Reddit. And again, I'll get to that point a bit later on. I got off my bike and I was looking around for collectibles, and I found that I could climb up. So as I've climbed up around, I managed to find a stone jaguar skull. I thought it was a relic or something like that. Like it was like a really sort of rare collectible that I managed to find. Because again, the game doesn't make any noise. It doesn't go to tell me that I'm meant to be there or anything like that. So I just thought I'm looking around, and I'm just finding collectibles because the game it's linear, but it's also open linear. So it's a bit more open. It's not complete open world. The levels are a bit more open, but it is still very linear. It's at times of where you've got to go, which is fine. But when the game doesn't tell you where you can and can't go or where you should go or doesn't make it obvious, it gets a bit annoying. And again, this level is completely for that. So I found this jaguar skull and I work my way around. I do a few jumps and then I get to a point where I've got a fork in the road where I can go right and I can go to another tomb and find a little sundial turning thing that I can move, as well as a big view of this like huge auditorium sort of stage. I get there, I find out that I can't move any of the plates yet because I don't have what I need. So I go around, and if I go to the right, as I go around, I can go into the little auditorium and look around there for collectibles, or I can go to the left and I can go and find another little temple with a skull in it. Now, again, the game doesn't tell me that I need to go here. It doesn't tell me I need to go there. And if I go straight ahead, I go to the other side of the auditorium, to the other sundial there. And there was this moment, and again, it was really, really annoying, where I went left the first time. I went to go into this little tomb. I found a gold skull. I think, oh my God, I found another relic. This is awesome. This sprouted everywhere around here. Turns out I needed it because it was one of these little skulls I have to put on the pedestal to move these little sundial things to open this area. And as I got it, my game crashed on me. Just crashed. That puzzle to get that took me forever to get it. So then I've booted the game back up. I've gone back in. I'm halfway. I'm really far away to the beginning. So now I've got to do the whole puzzle again to get the jaguar skull. Then I got to do the whole puzzle again to get the other skull. Save my game sort of religiously, constantly, just in case the game breaks on me again. Then I can go straight ahead and I can put the jaguar skull on the one pedestal, turn the sundial around to open the one bit, then go back around, put the other a gold skull on the other pedestal, put that on, move that around. And then this is another annoying part. So you do that, you get a big cutscene, the ground in the auditorium opens up, and what you're meant to do, again, it's not clear at all. What you're meant to do is get on your bike, race around quickly and drive underground very, very quickly before it closes. There's no timer. There's no the music picks up. There's nothing there to tell you that you've got to rush or anything like that. So again, I assumed, I can take my time, and I haven't really looked around the auditorium. There's still a few relic collectibles that I've got to find. So I've drove around. I managed to get there. Obviously, it's still open. I've drove around looking for collectibles. All of a sudden, the music stopped and the rocks are moving and the floors caved in. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. I haven't gone down there yet. This is not fair. And then I realize, crap, it was a timer. That's not fair. So now I'm having to go back to an old save. Again, like I mentioned, the saves are terrible. And again, it started to show itself at this part of the game. And then I'm having to go all the way back to an old save, do a lot of stuff I've just done again, and then go in the auditorium, get all the collectibles, then do the switches, then open up, then quickly plant my bike in a position where it's somewhere where I can quickly jump on it and race around before the floor like empties itself on me again. So I managed to get down. Great, wonderful. I'm in. I thought, okay, I'm done with the bikes. I'm done. I don't have to do it anymore. Oh no. I'm kidding myself, aren't I? So you're on the ground. You go into the mine underworld. You're on your bike. You're going around. You've got these jumps. You've got these wooden ramps. You jump over them. Great. You do 2 jumps, and then you're in this like little area, and the wooden ramps are not up. So you've got to get off your bike, climb up some sticks that are sticking out the wall. Again, this is where I realized that I can actually climb up them, because I kept trying to swing and I couldn't grab it. And I realized just messing around, if I held down A, I would stand up and I can jump higher and I can grab the stick above, swing, jump onto the switch, pull it down, and the wooden sort of bridges come up, right? Again, the game doesn't tell you this or anything like that, so you've just got to figure it out for yourself. But I did it. You don't get a lot of, and you think, oh, okay, so the game designers have given you enough like run up speed. You haven't got enough run up speed, to be honest. If you go too far backwards up the little wooden ramp, the back wheel will just break, and then you'll fall backwards and you'll fall in the hole. Then you've got to do the whole switch again. So you've got to go backwards, but you can't really fix the speed of how fast you go back. You either hold it down really gently and then just be really, really careful, and hopefully get lucky that you don't hold it down too much and like get blasted back and fall down and do it all over again. Or you got to do a little bit. Then you've got to quickly get the quick run up, jump over, and then you're in the next area. This next area that you're in now is you've got this big table in the middle, and you've got these statues with these big sort of like, I don't know what they're called. Probably let's call them staffs for argument's sake, because I can't remember what they're called. And each one of a staff, there's about 3 of them. There's about 3 or 4 of them, and they've got these rooms that you've got to go into to find these pieces that go on the table in the middle that will open up the middle table that you can go deeper underground to find, I think, Thor's magic belt, right? And each room is like a puzzle. It's like a trap room. So there's like spikes, there's blades and fire and stuff like that. And again, those themselves aren't the difficult part. The difficult part was, again, getting to them, because again, the game doesn't tell you. And like I said, because the game's so dark, and because I had to have it on the highest brightness, even then it was really difficult to know where I was going, what to see. And again, I had to play the game when it was dark, so that it was late in the day anyway, and I was already quite tired. So what should have been an hour was probably about 2-3 hours in this one area. But I ain't finished yet. So you do this, and it was a bit of a nightmare, and I'm fighting spiders, giant spiders at the same time. Giant spider alert! Sorry. And as I'm doing this, I finally managed to get these pieces, and I'm thinking, okay, I've done these pieces. Well, what now? Because again, I put all the pieces on the board, and I've moved the statues closer to the board as I meant to. But what do we do now? I don't know. Like, the game doesn't specifically tell you. And it turns out there was 2 pressure pads that I had to stand on and put the bike on one, and that opens up the floor in the middle. But again, the game doesn't tell you that. You just think, oh, I put all these things, I move all the statues back, it would move itself. The cutscene would happen, but it doesn't. So that happened. I was like, okay, great. So I'll get on the bike again. This is where the annoying part came. I go all the way down on the bike, and there's this blockage in the way, right? So when you get to this blockage, you're meant to get off your bike, climb up the blockage, climb over, and then you got this little puzzle area where you've got to basically get Thor's magic belt. But before that happens, the camera pans down to a skull on the floor. Now, next to this skull is a skeleton, right? And obviously, the skeleton is being crushed by the rubble. So I thought that was like a story thing. But it was a jaguar skull, and I knew from previously that I've picked up a jaguar skull, and I needed it. So I thought, well, obviously I've got to go pick it up. So I've gone over there. I've gone to pick it up. The game won't let me. I'm pressing Y. The game won't let me. I'm doing different angles. I'm moving the camera. I'm moving Lara. Again, I'm still pressing Y. The game won't let me. So I assume, because I had no other reason not to, because the game's never broken on me in this way before, I just assumed, oh, I don't need to pick it up. It's just a story thing, really. It's like a narrative device of like, oh God, this past adventure person was here and they got trapped in rubble. Hopefully that doesn't happen to Lara, that sort of thing. So again, I go off and I jump over and I do the puzzle and I finally manage to get Thor's magic belt. This is wonderful, great. And then I'm like, okay, so I make my way back. I get my bike. I go all the way up. I managed to get into the little trap room again, kill all the spiders, get my bike again, go over the one jump, having to go in the platform again, make the platform, the wooden platform to raise on the other side, which was a nightmare because again, Lara would not listen to me at all. At this stage, I'm really tired and really annoyed. I finally managed, after trial and error loads of times, because again, it was really difficult to get the right amount of run up and speed on the bike to get over these humps. I get to the very, very end thinking, finally, it's over. I've done it. All this stress and nightmare is over. And there's a switch at the end, right? Some of you ahead of me, slow down for a second. There's a switch. There's two pedestals. One pedestal has a jaguar skull on top of it. There's another pedestal that doesn't have a jaguar skull on top of it. So I run over thinking, oh, I must already have it. No, I don't have the jaguar skull, so I can't pull the thing down to open up the doors to let me out. And I'm like, I'm going to swear at the moment, but I was like, you fucking what? Where is this jaguar skull? There's not a single point where you told me where there was a jaguar skull. There was one, but you wouldn't let me pick it up. So it's obviously not that one. So that took me to Reddit. And I went to Reddit, and that's where I learned that a lot of people got stuck and actually stopped playing at this point in the game, because of the simple fact of the game didn't tell them where the first school was in the first ever area. Luckily, I found it because I was just looking around, but a lot of people didn't. And from looking through Reddit and other sort of forums from like 2008, 2009, I had to go really far back to find it. Basically, I managed to find one bloke, and he was like, oh yeah, just before you get to the boss room, just before you get to sort of the puzzle room to get Thor's magic belt, it's right on the floor, right outside it. Now, I got very, very lucky at this point, because when I'd finished the puzzle, when I'd managed to jump back, just before I got onto my bike, I just had this sort of, call it telepathy, call it, intuition, my conscience, whatever you want to call it. I just got this feeling of like, save the game, because I just had this feeling that something was going to go wrong, that something was going to mess up rightly, and I just needed to save the game. So I did. I saved it. I didn't think any of it. Luckily, where I saved the game, I was right next to the jaguar skull. The reason why I'm so lucky there is the fact of, when I realized where it was, I tried to go back on myself and jump over the wooden bridges and do the puzzle again. Problem is, the game broke again. It wouldn't let me climb up to get the switch. Every time I climbed up, Lara would jump forwards instead of up. And no matter what I did, no matter if she was standing still or I moved or what, she wouldn't jump up. So I couldn't jump over the bridge. I couldn't do it. What this would have meant, if I didn't get lucky and have that save and go back to that save to be able to pick up the jaguar skull, because the game fixed itself and I was able to pick it up that time. If I hadn't have done that, I would have had to do the whole level all over again. Now, if that had happened, I would have not carried on the game. I would have just called it a day, because that level was so frustrating. What should have been an hour took 2, maybe 3 hours. I don't know. It went from being really bright and sunny outside to being dark and close to about 9, 10 o'clock by the time I was done. That's how long it took me. And I'm just really glad I listened to my intuition and saved when I did. Otherwise, I don't think I'd be here with a very, very positive review, because this level really took it out of me. It was horrible. And what I found was, when I was looking at the achievements, to completing this level, you get 100 gamer score. this level is the highest amount of gamer score you get for completing a level. The rest are usually like 25 to 30 to 50, but this one is at 100, and it makes sense because it feels the longest. It's the most tedious. It's the most nightmarish. And like the 100G is like, here you go. We know it's a nightmare. We know it's a terrible, really difficult level. We're going to give you a 100 gamer score because you did it. Like, here you go. This is like a gift of like, we're sorry, but here you go. And it kind of sweetened the deal a little bit, but it still annoyed me. And after this point on, I became very sort of on edge. I stopped playing the game for the day. I was like, that's it, I'm done. I wanted to play more, but I knew if I carried on playing, I'd be playing in hate, and I'd be playing in negative, and I'd be playing just to get the game over and done with. And I didn't want to do that because, again, there are things that I do enjoy about this game. So I didn't want to hate game. So I took a break, stepped back, and I came back sort of the next day, and I managed to complete it. But it got me on edge because there were moments of like, I don't trust this game now. So I was saving constantly. Whenever there was a really sort of stressful like puzzle, jumping puzzle, that sort of thing, I was like, I've got to save, because knowing me, the game, if I don't save, the game's going to send me back miles away, and I'm going to have to do all this climbing and puzzling again. And it did happen a few times, but luckily, because I saved so much, I became like a save junkie, that I didn't have to worry so much. But I feel like if I just left it to the auto save, I would have been screwed many times. And the level after this, the Arctic level, it's not terrible, but it's a lot of jumping puzzles. And again, it's fine when Lara listens, but when she doesn't listen, it gets very annoying. And then you have a very quick mission where you're on a boat and you got to go confront Natla. Again, it's very short, very sweet. You get Thor's hammer. It's quite awesome, actually. You get Thor's hammer and you just OP and you just kill everything in one hit. It's brilliant. And then you have the final mission where you're in the Antarctic, and it starts to slow down a bit here. It's not as stressful. It's a little bit time consuming because you've got to find loads of gems to get these doors open and to get through. And then you've got this huge jumping puzzle at this end boss, because the end boss really is just a jumping puzzle. You don't shoot the end boss, you don't damage the end boss. It's literally every now and then the end boss is flying around and she'll fire like fireballs at you, and you just have got a quick time event where you got to quickly dodge them, and then you got to keep climbing. And then once you've basically destroyed the world serpent, because like the whole point of the ending is that you've got to, Natla wants to bring the world serpent. The only thing that can kill the world serpent from Norse mythology is Thor and his mighty hammer, Mjolnir. And you don't even get to see the giant serpent, which was a bit of a downer. You get to see the Kraken at the beginning of the game, like the blind Kraken, but you don't get to see the giant serpent. So like you don't really get any big bosses, really. You mostly just get the giant Kraken, and that's about it. And even then, the Kraken doesn't do anything. It kind of just sits there while you jump around and you drop a giant spiky chandelier on its head. But so that was a bit disappointing. And then you do it, and then you have this big cut scene where you and Amanda sort of escape, and then that's it. Really, you've completed the game. So it was a bit of an anticlimactic ending. It was a bit annoying considering I went through all that pain from Mexico all the way to sort of the Arctic level, and then just not for any real sort of big payoff. To be honest, it's just the fact of Lara comes to terms with what happened to her mother and happened to her father. Her and Amanda part ways, and that's it, really. So, as an end to the trilogy, an end to this game, kind of disappointing. Again, like I said, I do like how it tied in, and I thought that was great. But when you get to the ending and you realise the ending kind of falls a bit flat, and you're like, is that it? And you're like, oh, I went for all that nightmarish for this. What was the point? But that's my sort of thoughts on like the story and the gameplay. When it works, it works. But otherwise, it's a nightmare. And the saves and that Mexico level is going to give me nightmares for years. I even ranted to friends afterwards, even friends like who have like never played a Lara Croft game, or have no experience, or even knew what I was doing or why I was doing it. I was just like, I've got to talk to somebody because I'm going to go crazy. I had to get off my chest. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on sort of the story and the gameplay. The art style again is beautiful when you go to these different biomes. Like when you go to the Arctic, it looks and feels cold, which is good. When you deep sea diving, that looks really great. Like when you're first swimming down, you can't see nothing, and as you get closer, you can start to see like black blobs and these sort of outlines of possible structures and buildings. And as you get further and closer down, you can actually see like whole cities underwater, like Atlantis. Is It's wonderful. You still do get sort of the and even though they say, I said in the introduction, the development, that they said that they wanted to move away from the linear sort of dungeon crawler, that sort of thing, but you still get them. You still get these corridors that look basically the same, just with a different texture, but they are basically the same, just a rubble here and there. But it looks good, it feels good. You do feel like you're tomb raiding, you do feel like you're going to temples and stuff like that. So I really loved and appreciated that. As for the collectibles, there's not really much to say, to be honest. These collectibles, you find them basically everywhere. You break jars, they're there. You find them on ledges. You can find relics, which I think I only found 2. I think there was about 6 or 7 in the whole game, but they're really hard to find. And it got in complete honesty, I found one by accident, and the other one I found because I was watching a walkthrough for the Mexico level, because I got that stressed with the Mexico level that I didn't want to do it, and I don't like looking at walkthroughs, to be honest. I like to do it myself, but I got that frustrated I had to look at a walkthrough. And only because I watched that walkthrough that I managed to find the second relic. But I only found 2 out of 7. I found about 103 relics just lying around. But to be honest, I only really did it for the gamer score mostly. And I wouldn't mind if the game was a bit more forgiving for the exploration and a bit more forgiving with the saves. And I wouldn't mind going out my way to try and find these extra relics and these extra collectibles here and there. But because, again, the game can be very unforgiving at parts when it comes to the saves and stuff like that, that it got to a point where I was like, I can't bother. I literally just wanted to get the game over and done with. I just wanted to do what I've got to do. I didn't want to go off the beaten path. I didn't really care. I found 100 relics. I got the 50G achievement for finding 100 of them, and that was enough for me. I was like, look, I've got the artifacts. I'm done. I don't need to find any more. And just kept going. So yeah. The collectibles probably unlock story boards and things like that, but I'll be honest, I didn't really look. But yeah, my overall thoughts of the game is it's all right, to be honest. I still, despite my moments of sort of insanity and just wanting to bin the game completely from the Mexico level onwards, as I keep saying, and I have to keep reiterating this because it is important to keep mentioning it, is the fact of when the game works, it works. When the saves want to work, it's pretty good and fair. But again, I would just say that when you get to the Mexico level and onwards, just keep your eye out. Because again, like I said, the game doesn't tell you where you've got to go or what you've got to do some of the time. And because you've got these open levels, the first 2-3 levels are very misleading. They're very classic Tomb Raider. They're very linear. They're very this is the one direction you've got to go into and follow this path and it will take you here, right? And it's not until you get to the Mexico level where you've been conditioned for 3 levels of this is how the game's going to go, this is what you've got to do. And then you get to the Mexico level and you realize that gets completely thrown out of the water. And then you've just got to look everywhere, climb everything, because if you don't, the game won't tell you, and you will spend more time looking around getting frustrated than you should do or need to. So yeah, that is probably my biggest recommendation. The fact of play it, just remember to look everywhere, especially when you get to Mexico and onwards, because the game is very unforgiving. But yeah, apart from that, I did enjoy it. I did. Just a bit of a bummer considering doing all that hard work and then realizing that the ending it kind of falls flat. It's a very I don't know if this is where they were planning to end it. It's a bit of a bummer. If they were thinking of possibly doing something like a sequel or like another game in the future, but they never got around to it, and obviously then the reboot come. I don't know, but if this is the end of the trilogy for this, it was a bit of a sort of a lead balloon. You know, it was very sort of like, oh, I did all that for this. Seems very disappointing. But it is what it is. You know, there's not much I can say. The game's from like 2008, 2009. Like, you know, it's not a new game, so can't really change it. Also, because of this game, we managed to get the reboots that I love, and those would be the next games that I look into. So, I'm really excited for them. But as it goes for the Legend trilogy, for this trilogy, I enjoyed myself with Legend. It felt like proper classic. Lara Croft, but with like a next generation sort of skin. I think if I use the word, it is a there was a word I used, but I can't remember it now. That game was very much a sort of experiment, very much like a prototype of being like, this is what Lara could be for the next generation systems, and that's what Legend felt. It felt like trying to be like, this is what if this would happen if you took Lara Croft and put her in a next gen system. This is what we can do with her, and I really loved it for that, and I appreciate it for that. Anniversary was just very stressful and tedious, and a nightmare, and I do still kind of regret not completing it. Maybe one day I will go back and complete it in my own time. But I liked it for what it was trying to do, and the idea behind it. And Underworld was beautiful, gorgeous, and a real step up in quality in terms of visuals and animations and stuff like that, and even gameplay to an extent. It's just just the fact of when the game works, it works. When it doesn't, it really doesn't. And when it really doesn't work, it gets really, really annoying, especially when it decides to crash on you and you lose a good 30 minutes to an hour of gameplay and you almost throw your remote through the screen. Not that I'm an angry gamer, but this game really got me very close there. So so that is really my thoughts on Tomb Raider Underworld and the Legend series overall. Hope you liked it. Hope you enjoyed it. Like, it isn't over just yet. Like I said, I'm still going to be looking into the 2013 Tomb Raider game, and then I'm going to be looking at Rise of the Tomb Raider, then Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and I love all of those games. I do, and each one of them is special and unique in its own right, and I have so many memories and things to talk about them, and like I said, they are my favourite Tomb Raider games of all time, so I can't wait to get into them. And actually, when I completed this game, I uninstalled it and I went straight into installing the definitive edition of Tomb Raider on my Xbox Series X. So it's there, it's ready, it's waiting. There's other things I've got to do before I can get around to playing it. There's other games I've got to play and reviews I've got to do, sadly. But when I get to it and I play it, you'll hear about it and you'll just know how positive and excited I am for it. So keep your ear to the ground, keep listening, keep watching, like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube, follow me on Spotify, go back and check out my other Lara Croft content. I had an absolute ball watching the movies and watching the animated TV show on Netflix. So there's loads of Lara Croft content to check out, as well as, again, check out my reviews of Legend and Anniversary if you haven't checked them out yet. And so I've been your host, Luke the Human. Hope you liked it, hope you enjoyed it. You've been listening to the Howdy Beans podcast, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye bye.